Switching gears, it's time to talk about something a little more positive to end the year. I don't pretend to be the absolute authority on the entertainment industry and the criticism of it. I'm just some guy on the internet who loves a good story, be it in the form of a book, movie, TV show, or video game. It is consistently fascinating how we can be drawn into a fantastical world or experience concepts that challenge us as viewers. In my opinion, the best movies are the ones that spark our curiosity and ignite our imagination. These are the 10 films that I felt accomplished that most effectively. First, however, let's look at some honorable mentions. Dragon Ball Z: Battle of Gods. I am so glad that I saw a Dragon Ball Z movie on the big screen. I have loved Akira Toriyama's popular Dragon Ball series for years, and this movie offered a pleasantly nostalgic experience that reminded me why I got into the franchise in the first place. Featuring fluid and fast-paced animation, confident voice acting, and fresh ideas from the creator himself, this is an entertaining addition to the saga that has me eager for more stories and time to spend with these unforgettable characters. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Who would have thought that Captain America, a character that has long been the subject of ridicule for non-fans, would provide one of the best Marvel movies yet? Placing Cap in a contemporary setting, this film presents a politically charged espionage story where the character's old-school ideals are challenged by the underhanded and fear-inspired tactics of today. Not only does this film balance well-staged action sequences with interesting commentary on modern society, but it also demonstrates a noticeable faith in the source material and fine performances from Chris Evans, Robert Redford, Anthony Mackie, Frank Grillo, and Samuel L. Jackson. This does for Captain America what Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 did for everyone's favorite wall crawler. Guardians of the Galaxy. I had only heard passing mention made of this superhero team before this movie came out. Now I am quoting the phrase "I am Groot" while remaining very optimistic about Marvel's plans for future films. While not all of the humor works as well as intended, I found it difficult to resist getting caught up in the fun ride that this film offered. Aside from the wooden Drax the Destroyer and an unfortunately weak villain, the characters were all fun and well acted by stars like Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Vin Diesel, and Bradley Cooper as the charming Rocket Raccoon. It has some noticeable flaws, but they are offset by an appealing sense of mischievous fun. The Machine. Putting real emotional weight behind the concept of artificial intelligence without dumbing it down, this is a fascinating look at what it means to be human. Toby Stephens is heartfelt and poignant as the creator, and Katie Lotz provides an eerily physical take on the titular machine. The ethical ambiguity behind potentially creating a life form out of a machine, as well as questioning what differentiates one from the other, is conveyed beautifully by the haunting direction by Caradog W. James. This movie encourages you to ponder its complex subject matter long after the credits roll. The Rover. With the post-apocalyptic future being one of the most popular settings in fiction, any new films that utilize it must bring something new to the table. Fortunately, that's exactly what the director of Animal Kingdom does in his dystopian version of the Australian outback. It may sound familiar, but I don't think I've ever seen a movie that conveys the truly eerie emptiness of a post-apocalyptic setting better than this. Featuring transfixing performances from Guy Pearce and Robert Pattinson, along with atmospherically bleak direction and cinematography, this is one vision of a dystopian future that has you hooked from start to finish. Joe. I was one of the people who stopped taking Nicolas Cage seriously a long time ago. After the slew of lackluster flicks that he has done in recent years, his career has finally begun to show signs of life. Last year gave us a decent drama in The Frozen Ground, and now we have Joe, a coming-of-age story with Ty Sheridan further establishing himself as a talented teen actor after last year's Mud, and Cage delivering one of his most thoughtful performances in recent memory. Godzilla. As a longtime fan of the King of the Monsters, I was looking forward to this one since it was announced. though I do prefer the familiar musical cues and other aspects that the Japanese films bring. I also thought that the titular monster should have been the main focus instead of the Muto. However, it's difficult to deny how well this displays the destructive spectacle, showing Godzilla as an instinctive force of nature and capturing the sheer scope of the monsters with surprising finesse. Director Gareth Edwards takes potentially silly subject matter and treats it like a natural disaster, which works for the most part and has me looking forward to the sequel. John Wick. I ended up not seeing this for whatever reason. Maybe it was because I have never particularly cared for Keanu Reeves as an actor outside of Bill and Ted, but upon hearing the extremely positive reviews, I have every intention of checking this one out when it's released on DVD. Nightcrawler. This was another one that I missed out on, mostly because when I finally heard of it and found time to see it, the only showings still available were at 10 o'clock at night. It's yet another movie that I plan to watch on the small screen at the earliest opportunity, as I find Jake Gyllenhaal to be a very capable and dedicated actor who has really knocked it out of the park with recent films like End of Watch and Prisoners. The Imitation Game. I really like Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley, and the intriguing story that this film is about had me looking forward to it months in advance. However, it only got a limited release. Now, on to the main list. Number 10. A Most Wanted Man. This is one of the most understated espionage films in the genre. On top of that, the script boasts an intelligence that helps it ascend past simply being about hunting a potential terrorist. In spite of the occasionally slow pace, the plot moves along in a manner akin to a chess game, with the characters' moves being carefully planned and treated with the utmost consideration for the consequences. In one of his last film roles, Philip Seymour Hoffman brilliantly draws you in with his subtly nuanced performance. He is effectively backed up by Rachel McAdams, Willem Dafoe, Grigory Dobrigin, I just butchered that man's name, and Robin Wright, who all rise to the challenge and give impressive depth to their characters. Combine these with the tense direction, and you have a very suspenseful film that's a credit to the genre and shows that Hoffman still had it until the end. Number 9. Edge of Tomorrow. This was among the most overlooked movies of the year, with a box office gross so underwhelming that the title was changed upon its DVD release. However, this does nothing to change the film's high quality. Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt are in top form here, credibly acting as action movie leads while maintaining their dramatic talents. Further benefiting from Doug Liman's slick direction, the film finds a perfect balance between drama and humor, embracing its sci-fi concepts and self-aware enough to know when to play them for laughs. It's clever, well-paced, and immensely enjoyable from both a comedic and a heartfelt perspective. Number 8. Interstellar. Christopher Nolan envisioned this as his tribute to 2001: A Space Odyssey and other groundbreaking films that inspired him. While it doesn't quite succeed in all of its ambitions, this movie is still a thought-provoking space adventure with powerful performances from its capable cast, with standouts being Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, and Mackenzie Foy. In addition, the film is strikingly atmospheric and masterfully directed, sporting magnificent effects and an appropriately bleak tone that make it a memorable and thought-provoking piece of science fiction. Number 7. The Lego Movie. Not since Toy Story has a movie captured the best aspects of childhood as well as this. Legos are meant to inspire creativity in what crazy things that you can build, so it makes sense that that would be the central theme of the film. The characters are all distinct, charming, and memorable, making great use of the celebrity voice cast. To name a few highlights, Liam Neeson is hilarious as the schizophrenic good cop, bad cop. Chris Pratt is clumsily endearing as the main character Emmett. Will Arnett's satirical take on Batman nearly always works. And Alison Brie is so convincing as the lovable and naive Princess Unikitty that I almost confused her for a professional voice actress like Tara Strong. In conjunction, the movie boasts gorgeous animation where literally everything is made out of Legos. Finally, it's all tied together with a great message about embracing spontaneity and imagination instead of always adhering to a set of rules or instructions. It's a very heartfelt aspect of one of the most accomplished family films of the year. Number 6. The Grand Budapest Hotel. I liken this film to Seven Psychopaths, in that while you could see it as this artsy piece of Oscar bait, it's actually really enjoyable to watch. Director Wes Anderson takes audiences on a quirkily comedic journey where a concierge and a lobby boy try to prove the former's innocence. Ralph Fiennes and Tony Revolori have appealing chemistry and interact with a plethora of A-list stars. Jeff Goldblum, Willem Dafoe, Saoirse Ronan, Adrian Brody, Edward Norton, Harvey Keitel, F. Murray Abraham, and Jude Law all bring something funny to the table. The experience is further strengthened by the colorful production design and great sense of humor, leaving an overarching impression of charm. Number 5. Noah. I know, many of the religious audience members are probably going to hate this one, but I found it to be an epic piece of filmmaking that delves into both the physical and psychological journeys of the title character. The emotionally raw performances by Russell Crowe, Jennifer Connelly, Ray Winstone, Emma Watson, and Anthony Hopkins convey the desperation of the characters and the weight of the situation before them. Additionally, Darren Aronofsky's sure-handed direction, Clint Mansell's exemplary musical score, and the breathtaking cinematography give the movie a mythical atmosphere that suits the story. Even after all of the controversy surrounding certain creative decisions, "Oh no, God is called the creator," I still found this to be one of the most memorable and visually distinctive biblical films out there, effectively telling a compelling story about maintaining one's faith in the gravest of circumstances. Number 4. Snowpiercer. Now this is how you portray a dystopian future filled with oppression. Take note, Hunger Games and Divergent, as the social commentary in this story resonates much more strongly than anything that I've seen in these young adult movie adaptations. Marking the English language debut of South Korean director Bong Joon-ho, this movie depicts the Earth in the middle of a second ice age as a result of an experiment intended to halt global warming. The survivors are split up into classes on a constantly moving train called the Snowpiercer. The superb production design and edgy direction are two of the film's many strengths, but the most significant advantage is the social message. In dividing the train's residents into the upper, middle, and lower classes, the movie makes a few statements about societal standings in real life, effortlessly infusing it with dystopian themes like indoctrination. All of this is conveyed very well by the excellent acting, with notable performances coming from Chris Evans, Song Kang-ho, Tilda Swinton, Jamie Bell, as well as a few smaller appearances that I won't spoil. This is very good when taken at face value and great when you read deeper into it. Number 3. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. If this does not make a case for performance capture in the mainstream, then I don't know what will. This improves on its predecessor, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, by giving us a conflict between apes and humans that is anything but black and white. There are a lot of morally gray areas when it comes to these characters, with Andy Serkis and the other ape actors delivering terrific and heartfelt performances that perfectly show the balance between their primitive nature and their intelligence as their minds grow more advanced. While not quite as interesting, The human characters are also fairly compelling, featuring likable supporting actors in the form of Jason Clarke, Kerry Russell, and Gary Oldman. Where this film truly shines, however, is in its embrace of political subtext and social commentary, which is something that the Planet of the Apes series excels in. Some view the film as advocating gun control, which is somewhat ironic, but I interpreted the movie as a thoughtful story about the consequences of going to war and how easily a fragile state of peace can be broken. That's just me, though. Number 2. X-Men, Days of Future Past. After 14 years, Hollywood's most enduring comic book movie series is still going strong. At long last, Bryan Singer has returned to the X-Men films and delivered the best entry since X2 X-Men United. Not only does this movie bring together a fantastic cast to bridge the original trilogy with First Class, but it rectifies several mistakes made in previous entries. You thought that the supporting characters from First Class were disappointingly weak? They are out of the picture. You didn't like how the third movie insultingly killed off main characters like Xavier, Scott, and Jean? They are alive and well. In addition to reinvigorating the franchise, the movie also works surprisingly well as a story in itself. Although it strays far from the comic book's narrative, the film maintains a central theme of believing in the best of people even when all hope seems lost. All of this is summed up beautifully in one perfect scene between the two versions of Charles Xavier. Speaking of that, Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy are both great as Professor Xavier at different stages of his life. Likewise, Ian McKellen and Michael Fassbender are each brilliantly charismatic as the two versions of Magneto. Of course, Hugh Jackman is still ruggedly convincing as Wolverine, and the rest of the huge cast, from Peter Dinklage to Ellen Page, also do a fine job. The style and direction by Bryan Singer also remains in top form, making for a standout film in the series and one that gives me a renewed sense of hope for future installments. Number 1. The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. I am putting this at the top not only because I'm a fan, but also because it is genuinely the most satisfying movie that I have seen this year. Aside from serving as a grand finale to the Hobbit series and a smooth transition to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the film manages to balance spectacular battle scenes with the smaller character moments. Martin Freeman, Richard Armitage, Luke Evans, Ian McKellen, and the rest of the cast are truly powerful here, taking full advantage of the dramatic material given to them. I suppose you could criticize the amount of CGI, but it never once eclipses the story. The creativity is consistently impressive, and I love the way that Peter Jackson and company are able to tell relatable, human stories with many of these fantasy characters. The breathtaking visual splendor is as prevalent as ever. The attention to detail remains as equally stunning as previous entries. Howard Shore's music is both beautiful and memorable. The characters are likable and well acted. The action sequences are directed with astonishing prowess. The story is more personal and compelling. And the movie as a whole is a heart-stopping conclusion to one of the most well-realized literary adaptations ever put to film. Alrighty, well, hopefully you've all seen plenty of poignant and satisfying movies this year. If you disagree with the choices that I've made, feel free to form your own lists and/or sound off in the comments below. 2015 is coming up fast, and who knows what will be on next year's list.